Hello again, Strict Pup. Diablo Force Open Beta tests are almost here. It's a week away from us, even less than a week, and I'm already done with making some Theorycrafts, and I'm gonna keep making Theorycrafts every day until the beta for semi-builds that should be good for fresh-into-endgame characters to consider when the game actually launches. They could be okay for use during the beta, but they're not meant to be level 25 setups. They're meant to be like level 60 plus-ish, level 50 plus setups in general. So fresh into endgame characters could benefit mostly from those setups. If you are planning on getting full setups, I'm planning also to evolving them into fully fledged builds when the game is here and released. So I will keep those setups, those builds updated as 2.0, 3.0 and so on versions as we get new seasons, new patches, and initially they will do get one massive facelift when the game is finally launched. This is one such setup for the Druid Class. Someone in the comments on my YouTube videos mentioned that he wants a cocaine bear build. Well, here it is, BIG GRIZZ. This build brings the BIG GRIZZ energy. And bear with me, I'm not done with the puns yet. This build is very tanky and uses 2 defensive skills while not taking a companion. Bear in mind that I've added suggestions for companions to take, actually one companion, specific type to take if you drop one of the defensive skills. So this very tanky shape-shifty build might be to your liking. A little info about the beta. They will let us only reach level 25 during the beta and only let us play during the first act/zone. So we'll have limited access to items, skills, and so on. So those builds, as I said, not that great for the actual game, ideally for characters around level 50 plus, 60 plus. And I've used 63 points. People told me that 63 might be the maximum points, at least in the beta it was the maximum points they could get, around 63 or 65. We'll see how that will be when the game actually launches, whether we'll have around 70 points or more. How many points will there be from renown? But this can be used to jumpstart your post story and game grind as in a way. I've also made spreadsheets for those builds. So the one that you'll be seeing in this video will be my work in progress document, but I do have 2 documents, and this build, once I'm uploading the video, if I don't forget, I put it in a spreadsheet where all my builds are, and I have a second one that can be used like a build calculator that has the full skill trees and then the list of aspects I could find on the internet. So links in the description for those if you want to mess around with them. And I hope you enjoy the build. Buckle up and let's go. I like starting this segment from the bottom up to avoid confusion, because if I start from the top there might be some confusion, but normally the way I make my builds is I pick this one, the specialization, the capstone, and the ultimate first, and then I build around those. Then I pick the rest of the skills to match those. So while there might be better specializations for certain skills, the thing is I pick the specialization and build around it. So Ursine Strength, I wanted to build around it. I wanted a werebear focused setup. Grizzly Rage, definitely the one to take for such a setup. 20% multiplicative additional maximum life. Again, that's where we are very tanky. While in werebear form, and for 3 seconds after leaving. And we will have some things to force us into leaving. I took a certain skill in the defensive category. So while healthy, we deal 20% multiplicative increased damage. That means when we have more than 80% of our maximum life, we deal multiplicative damage. And there are options. I've left some skills that I didn't invest into that you might want to consider because of certain synergies, such as this one that can heal you when you use a nature skill that consumes spirit. And since we are transforming one of our shape-shifting skills into an earth skill, they will count as a nature skill, because nature is storm and earth together in one name. There's this one, 45, 45, 45. 45 is something that could help you to keep yourself healthy. So if you want to invest into certain things, it is definitely nice to consider Fortify. Grizzly Rage, as you can see, shapeshift into Dark Bear for 10 seconds, getting a bonus damage and damage reduction. You're unstoppable and you gain 45 per second while Grizzly Rage is active. So for those 10 seconds, then you have 50 seconds downtime until you have things that reduce the cooldown. As you can see, I've put points here for the damage reduction while you're 45. If you think you don't need the damage reduction, there are plenty of other places where you can put them that I've left here. For example, this one where you receive additional healing from all sources, which could be very good to consider for such a build. Now, Trample. Trample is shapeshift into Werebear, charge forward, do damage, knock back enemies, and if you knock them back into terrain, they're also stunned. You're also unstoppable during Trample, and now there's the choice to make. Do you want more Fortify or do you want Spirit? I've picked Spirit, but if you think you're fine with the Spirit, I do suggest strongly to go for the Fortify option then. I haven't tested to know how easy or hard it will be to generate Spirit for that setup, how much Spirit hungry the setup will be. Ravens is the companion you might take if you skip one of those two skills. And if you do take Ravens, my suggestion is this upgrade, Ferocious. This one's also interesting. Gain Spirit when transforming into human. For example, if you're a Werebear and use Earthen Bulwark, I believe that's when you will transform back into human. Use your Earthen Bulwark and then you can go back transform with another skill that shapeshifts you. So I think we don't have enough transforming back into human form to justify this, considering this is 16-second cooldown. And if you do want to use this, you might want to replace something like this one with another Earth skill. Or maybe Debilitating Roar can be removed and take another Earth skill, but in general, I wouldn't do that. So here you have Earthen Bulwark, Debilitating Roar. So this one reduces the attack speed of nearby enemies, giving you some survivability as a result. It also fortifies you, and it can also heal you. And since again we want to keep our life up, I prefer this healing instead of the slow. As an Earthen Bulwark, by the way, it makes you unstoppable. It and absorbs X damage. I think makes you unstoppable while active is actually reflected here. So this one probably is not there until you pick that one. It's kind of like a barrier. The way I think it is, I think this is considered as a barrier. I need confirmation on that, so be careful around it. But I did suggest here one aspect that that might work if it really counts as a barrier. So back to Earthen Bulwark, I prefer the Fortify, but if you think you have plenty of Fortify and survivability and you're not dropping below 80% life, then this one is interesting, because you'll be up there close and personal, and this explosion would be pretty solid. What we have here is increases your non-physical resistances, and then you take extra reduced damage for X seconds after using a defensive skill. And you have 2 defensive skills, so this is very good. If you only go for one of them, I probably would remove this one. Unless you take one with a longer duration. But 3 and 4 seconds, not that great. Predator Instinct, critical strike chance against nearby enemies increased by 3%. Hopefully it's 3% per point. For 9, I've maxed this one out. And I've taken this while in Werebear form, damage reduction increased by 3%, hopefully per point. This persists for 3 seconds after leaving. And yeah, this one, you might not want it, you might not need it. If you're tanky, then you can take those 3 points, put them elsewhere. Maximum Spirit increase, I think it's nice. If you think it's not needed to have all 3 points, maybe just put 1 point, but then get that basic skill, generate more Spirit. And you might want to consider this. If you think you have enough Spirit generation, then consider that, because core skills pulverizes our core skill, and we are transforming it into Earth skill as well. It also would count as an Earth skill, thanks to one of our aspects. More about that later. So you shapeshift, you do damage. to nearby enemies. You do multiplicative more damage if hitting 2 or more enemies, so you would want to group them up, and enemies hit with pulverize deal reduced damage for 4 seconds to help with survivability. You don't need the immobilize. I think there's plenty of crowd control to not need immobilize, but this taking less damage from the enemies that have been debuffed by it is definitely nice. And Mo, our spirit generator, more enemies, it also fortifies, and if you're healthy, which this build strives for, it grants 4 additional spirit. I'd prefer this one over that one. No need to say why. I don't think the SWO is that great. Only for 2 seconds, only 15%, whereas this one will keep it going. So hopefully it's clear why I took what I took, why I left some skills out there as options to put points, because who knows, maybe 63, 65 is not the limit. Maybe we would have 70 points, and I want to leave you options, or you might want to change things around, move things from one place to another, and so on. Here we are at the aspect section where most of the magic happens. We have so many fun things with this very interesting BIG GRIZZ energy setup. The BIG GRIZZ uses certain nice aspects. I'm going to talk about them in a moment. Let me quickly give you a summary of legendary aspects, what they are, how they work. Most of you watching this might be new to the game. I would be when the game comes out. So legendary aspects are the legendary powers that come from legendary items, and you can get legendary items from drops of all types, like directly from mobs, from chests, from big bosses, which again falls under the mobs, and anything that you pick up, if it has a chance to drop, it will have also most likely chance to drop legendaries, and legendaries have legendary aspects on them. And they are categorized into defensive, offensive, mobility, utility, resource. So utility ones can only drop on the types of items slots that you see here, but you can take them from one item of the same category and put it on another item of the same category. So utility items you can take the legendary aspect from the helmet, put it on the gloves or the boots or the chest or the amulet, and so on with all the rest of them. Now that this is clear, you can also get a legendary aspect by completing certain dungeons and killing the final boss. For example, this one here, gain X spirit when you are stuck as a werebear. It's something you can find in the fracture peaks in the immortal emanation. You go to the immortal emanation there, you finish the dungeon, you get the boss killed, and then you unlock this in a user interface called the Codex of Power, where you get the bare minimum values of those legendary aspects. So if this X is like 5, and it can go all the way up to 10, if you're lucky from a drop, with the Codex of Power, you will always get 5. So in this case, you will always get the 20. In this case, you will always get the 1. In this case, it will be always 40% and so on. But it's better than nothing. It's better to be able to unlock them that way, to fill in the gaps, to patch up a setup with an aspect you really want, like a build around me aspect like this one, for example, that you might really want to get from the Belfry Zakara. So hope this is clear. Now let's quickly go through the aspects I took. Helmet shared misery, then skinwalker's aspect on the chest, quicksand on the gloves, mending stone on the pants, ghostwalker on the boots, ballistic on the amulet, umbro on the ring, rampaging werebeast on the ring 2, on the weapon 1 or 2-handed weapon if you're using crash stone aspect, and then offhand Ursine horror. But the thing is, I wouldn't suggest using two-handed weapon because I want Ursine horror and crash stone and this to be there. And if you do go crash stone for Ursine horror, you might want to move quicksand to the skinwalker's spot and then either replace quicksand in the pants with this one, with Skinwalker, or do something else about it. I mean, there are options, but I personally, I would do that. I put Ursine Horror on Quicksand. Quicksand goes on Skinwalker, removing it on the chest sword, not gloves. Yeah, actually Yeah, actually, this is it. So aspect of Ursine Horror goes on quicksand on the gloves. The quicksand goes on the chest sword, replacing Skinwalker. And if you want to, you could replace Mending Stone. There is a mistake here. You can replace Mending Stone in the pants with it. I was wondering why it said quicksand here, and it was green. This is why. So yeah, this is how you can do it. But then you're losing either Skinwalker or Mending. It's up to you which one to lose, but that's the option. And I'd rather not have to do it, so I recommend one-handed and an offhand for the setup, so we can have that one extra aspect. Unless the one on the two-handed weapon can be equipped on the second weapon slot and it still applies as a stat stick, but I don't think that's the case. Quick overview of why I took what I take. This one must have. Earth skills do multiplicative, more critical strike damage to crowd controlled enemies. Pulverize counts as an Earth skill. Earthen Bulwark also. And Earthen Bulwark with this upgrade, if you decide to take it, could benefit greatly from that. Aspect of the rampaging werebeast during the duration of a grizzly rage, it is increased first of all, and in addition you have crit strikes while in the grizzly rage, increasing your crit strike damage by 10% for the duration. So if you can stack multiple instances of 10%, this is a beast. Pardon, this one was not actually intended. So aspect of the Ursine Horror, Pulverize is now also Nerton skill. This is a build around me item for that setup, in my opinion. After casting Pulverize, Tectonic Spikes continue to deal damage over 2 seconds. Another nice must-have thingy. Then we have Ballistic Aspect. When you have Fortified Life, your Earth skills gain +3, which means again another synergy. This one gives us Earth skills +3. And if we put it in the best spot, which might be the amulet for 50%, or the well, there is no other spot for it. 50%. This remains to be seen whether it will be 3 plus 50% to 4.5, and whether that 4.5 rounds up to 5 or to 4 levels. But you get, in the worst case, you would only get 3 levels extra on Earth skills when you have Fortified Life, and that would be your Pulverize and the Earthen Bulwark. Both of those will count as extra +3 levels on them, which is massive considering they're at level 5 maximum. Then damage from Earth skills, walls, enemies. Pretty cool, pretty solid. You don't need it, but it does help with that, and it does help with Umbro, and it does help with Shared Misery, which also helps with Umbro. So you crowd control enemies and then have a chance to spread it to other enemies, and then for each crowd controlled enemy, each time you crowd control an enemy, actually, you gain resource. And then Mending Stone and Skinwalker. When you use a shape shifting skill that changes your form, you gain life. While you're at full life, gain 45. The other one, the duration of Earthen Bulwark is increased by 6 seconds. Mind you, it only has 3 seconds, now it becomes 9 seconds. In addition, killing an enemy with Earth skills replenishes N of your active Earthen Bulwark's barrier. I mean, obviously nice synergy, and I can't wait to try this one setup. It seems super fun to play. To get notified when I upload more content like this one or other builds and guides for Wooter and not so Wooter games, you can subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to not miss out on notifications. As well as keep in mind there's something called memberships on YouTube, which lets you be a paying member for my channel to get access to perks such as emotes and badges made by me, as well as the option to get one-on-one tutoring for the very basics of Adobe Photoshop, Premiere and After Effects. And memberships can be cancelled at any time if you no longer want to be a member. Thanks for watching all the way until the end, Struck Web. Keep it cool until next time, and goodbye.